Ladies and gentlemen, fellow real estate professionals and tech nerds alike, welcome to the very first episode of the Tech 4 podcast.
Woohoo!
You're joining myself, Jake Youngs, and Mr. Jeffrey, Mr. Tech Raskin. Could not have said that any more awkwardly, but either way, guys, welcome to the very first episode. And today we're bringing some of the latest and greatest real estate news to you. We're talking about what's going on with the Phoenix REALTORS Association and their whole new MLS Choice thing. We're aware that this is creating a ton of confusion, especially in the Phoenix real estate market. And we're interested to see what kind of an uproar this causes throughout the rest of the real estate industry. So first off, Jeff, could you give us a quick rundown of what exactly is going on with this whole thing with the Phoenix REALTORS Association and kind of what the MLS Choice is and how this came to be?
Yeah, I've been asked this question quite a bit over the last few days of exactly what is happening, and the choice is whether to stay NAR or not. And there are different choices out there now, so we need to decipher the pros and cons of each of them and whether it's worth it to stay with the National Association of Realtors or do other. And the one that has really taken the lead, the association that has taken the lead on this, is Phoenix REALTORS, and they said, hey, we're going to go ahead and we're going to create our own forms to basically offset the AR, Arizona Realtor forms, that we've been used to for so many years. And we're also going to offer some other things even if you don't want to become a Realtor member. Believe it or not, our other two associations here in Phoenix, which is going to be We Serve and Scottsdale Realtors, has been doing this actually since 1994. You've actually had the opportunity to say, hey, I don't want to be an NAR, AR member. I just want to be part of AR-MLS, our local MLS here, and that's it. And you've had the ability to do that, to pay a lower fee usually, and go ahead and just belong to Arizona Regional Multiple Listing Services and be done with it. They've just brought it out even more and said, look, if you don't want to do NAR, AR at all, once again, pros and cons, but we're going to give you the ability to go that route.
So I've been a member of SAR in the past. I'm now a member of We Serve. Why have I never seen this option get brought out before? Why has this always been hidden, and why is this something that they don't advertise at all on their websites?
Okay, so top secret here, so don't say it too loud. But yes, it has been available, but no, they do not offer it out there on their website. So I do want to let you know We Serve does have that route. SAR, now known as Scottsdale Realtors, does have that route as well, and so did Phoenix. They just didn't advertise it to their members.
Until now that we have all this NAR lawsuit stuff going on. Why do you think, in your opinion, why do you think this would be an attractive offering for Phoenix Realtors, like anybody who is currently a realtor, to somewhat jump ship and get MLS access only? In my personal opinion, I'd love to hear yours, but in my personal opinion, I think it's going to be two primary groups of people that are going to be looking at jumping ship. It's going to be either the group of people that have gone through all the lawsuit crap with the NAR over the last year. They're not necessarily thrilled about how the NAR defended itself and defended its members, and they're not really seeing the value in the NAR anymore that it once contributed to the table. Or the other group of people that I see would be people who are part-time in the real estate industry that don't need to pay that $500 some odd a year to belong to a realtor association and get access to all the NAR tools and all the discounts and things that are offered. Just the people that are selling like maybe friends and family's houses once or twice a year, the people who are working off of referral. What do you think about that? Do you think that's a good, accurate assumption, or do you feel like maybe there's some other groups of people that are included in there?
Very well said, Jake. That is exactly the types of people that are going to be jumping ship. And by the way, before I go into that, I just want to remind you, We Serve does still have an option to go MLS only Actually, it's only $200 a year, believe it or not. And SR, Scottsdale Realtors, also has that option as well. Once again, they're not going to advertise it quite as bluntly as Phoenix Realtors has, but I do want to let you know they still do have that option. The only difference between WeServe, Scottsdale, and Phoenix, now called MLS Choice, that branch of it, is that WeServe and Scottsdale do not have their own version of the forms. So in other words, you would be able to go MLS only, but you wouldn't have access to the AR forms. So no more regular RPC that you've been used to, the ER, the bins or the spuds, and the 105 other forms that are out there. Phoenix is the only one that decided to create their own version of the forms because we can't use the copyrighted AR forms anymore. So I just want to throw that out there.
Okay, so if I became an MLS only member with SAR or with WeServe, I wouldn't have access to any forms unless my brokerage created forms for me.
That's absolutely right.
Okay, so kind of turning a little bit into these forms here, we've now seen the forms. They're brand new, newly released to the Phoenix Realtors who chose to go with this MLS Choice option. Do you think these new forms are going to be creating a lot of chaos in the industry for a little while? Plus, not only Phoenix is creating their own forms, but we've also got multiple brokerages coming out and saying, oh, to heck with any realtor forms whatsoever. Plus, we're not even going to be a member of the NAR or any realtor association. We're just going to build our own forms from the ground up. I've seen some little snippets here and there of people who are concerned about it. And of course, there's a lot of brokerages out there that are still sticking with the realtor forms that think that maybe it's an unnecessary move to create your own forms or think it's going to create more chaos than it's going to help. But what do you think about that? Do you think that all these new forms coming out is going to be extremely chaotic, or do you think we're going to adapt to it pretty quickly?
Yeah, so I haven't forgotten about your first question because it was a great question of what type of groups are out there. I do want to tell you, based on the question that you just asked me, is what about the chaos that it is created? So here's the other thing that you need to know. So there are brokerages that have created their own set of forms because they go, okay, we don't want to be NAR members anymore, and we don't care about Phoenix Realtors. We want to still belong to WeServe or SAR. So what we're going to do is we're going to create our own set of forms. Now, I want to remind you that if you decide that you don't want to be a Realtor member, you need to hang your license with a non-Realtor broker.
Correct.
So in other words, the actual brokerage in of itself has to not be a Realtor member. So there's the choices there. Do you hang your license with a Realtor brokerage or a non-Realtor brokerage? And by the way, there's 4 or 5 companies that I know right off the top of my head that actually are creating a split house, which means that within their roof, they have a Realtor group and they have a non-Realtor group. They can't call it the same name. I think HomeSmart is a great way and a great example of this. HomeSmart in itself is a Realtor member. You can either choose to be a Realtor member and you join HomeSmart. If you don't want to be a Realtor member but still be with HomeSmart, you could be HomeSmart Realty, and that is the non-Realtor part of their brokerage.
That makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
So just pausing right there for a second, what is it that creates this rule that it has to be all or nothing? Is this something that's imposed from the NAR, or is this something that's imposed by the brokerages?
Yeah, that is actually an NAR thing. NAR says that if you're going to be a Realtor member, all of your members have to be Realtor members. If they're not going to be a Realtor member, that's fine, but you and nobody in that brokerage can be a Realtor member. So that comes from NAR.
Okay.
A lot of people are still confused about ADRE, and I hate to even bring that into the mix, but I just got asked this question: am I going to still have to take my 24 hours every 2 years? The answer is
darn right.
of course you do, because that has nothing to do with NAR or non-NAR. That is a licensee thing created from the Arizona Department of Real Estate. So I just want to remind you, 24 hours every 2 years is ADRE. The only thing you don't need to take if you're a non-Realtor member is the triennial Code of Ethics.
Which in that case, our ethical agent course is still a great option to take. You just don't get your code of ethics credit out of it at the end of the day.
From NAR.
Yes.
Right.
So anyways, I took you down like 3 different rabbit holes
Which
there.
I knew it'd go that route. It's very confusing.
Yep. So what else did you want to add on to the questions I asked before?
Yeah, let's first go over the forms really quick, because this gets very confusing. Let's say I'm Jeff, the Realtor member. You're Jake, the non-Realtor member. It is my listing. You're obviously the buyer's agent. And you send me a non-Realtor version of the residential purchase contract, the RPC. They don't call it that in MLS Choice forms, but that's what it would be like. So you send me this offer, I'm going to get it. I've never seen this before because I'm used to the AR RPC, and so now I get it and I want to write a counteroffer. So we're talking about 2 different organizations here, non-Realtor, Realtor member, and the question is, what do I counter with? Do I have to ask for one of your forms so I could counter? Do I counter with the AR counteroffer? Same thing with the Binzer, right? Because you have your own Binzer. That's a non-AR form. So you're going to go ahead and send that over to me.
This gets confusing quick.
Very, very confusing. And then what do I respond with? Do I respond with the AR? And that's in this. It gets very, very confusing. And that's the biggest question of all.
Well, if you want to get even more confusing, let's talk about a brokerage that's not. Oh, actually, let me ask you this. If you have a brokerage that's not a part of the NAR, can their agent still be a part of that MLS Choice with the Phoenix Realtors?
If they're, wait, say that one more time.
So you have a brokerage that's not a member of the NAR.
Right.
So none of their agents are realtors. Can their agents still be members of the MLS Choice with the Phoenix Realtors Association?
Yes, which is confusing because they still call it the Phoenix Realtors, but they're not Realtors.
The Phoenix non-Realtors.
Yeah, it actually should be the Phoenix non-Realtors MLS Choice. And the answer is correct. You can do that, which gets it. Yeah. So let's get into the groups that you were discussing with.
I was just going to say, if we want to add even more confusion to that pile, so if you have a brokerage that's not a member of the NAR, they create their own forms, plus you get access to the Phoenix Realtors forms. Which one do you use? I think that's probably a great question to ask your designated broker. But anyways, Jeff, you were saying.
And by the way, just to remind you of the question that you just asked, which is a great one, right? If you belong to the Phoenix Realtors MLS Choice and your brokerage also has their own set of forms, obviously, and then you're a non-Realtor member, which one do you use there? Definitely ask your DB, as Jake just mentioned. Yeah, it gets very confusing. And then one last confusion factor that I need to throw into the mix here.
Oh boy.
I know NAR, of course, has a cease and desist possible order out there against Phoenix Realtors MLS Choice. So right now they're saying, hey, by the way, Phoenix Realtors, you're hanging the blue flag called the Realtor flag, and now you're also under the same roof have the non-Realtor flag. You can't do both. That is against your charter. So that is up on the line, and we're going to go ahead and we're going after you on that one. So the question is, what happens if they truly go through with that, meaning NAR goes to Phoenix, which they already have, and said, we're pulling your charter? Well, in that case, every Realtor member of Phoenix, if they want to stay a Realtor member, they're going to have to go someplace else.
Yeah. Well, not to mention, I guess Phoenix Realtors, the idea that we've tossed around is they could always create their own subsidiary of real estate professionals that are strictly MLS Choice, but that's a story for another day. And keep in mind, guys, this information is all accurate as of when we're recording this in January of 2025. So if you're watching this 2 years down the road from now, it may not be the most up-to-date info. So just stay tuned for that. Anyways, Jeff, back to you.
Okay, so let's talk about the people who say, you know what, I'm jumping ship. I don't want to be part of NAR anymore. So let's go back to your first point. Are people pissed at NAR? They are. People are super upset. I understand they threw us under the bus. We have a $415 million lawsuit on top of the other monies that Remax and Anywhere, and it goes on and on and on, and they've all paid. So I understand people are super upset, and they're like, we don't want to be part of the National Association anymore. Not to mention all the scandals and things that have happened throughout the last couple of years to presidents stepping down and a lot of other things that have gone on. So I understand that. Other people, for example, the referral networks, they don't really use the forms anyways. They don't need to be part of NAR. They're just like, I want access to MLS, or I don't want access at all. I just want to refer it all together, and you only need to be a licensee to do that. So those people, I can actually understand.
Yeah.
So we have referral groups, we have commercial brokers who just don't want to be part. Most of them aren't part of NAR anyways. So you do have those group of people that have definitely jumped ship. I've talked with spoken with a couple of brokers, and they've told me that as of now, about 3 to 5% of their membership has gone to the non-realtor route.
Wow.
Yeah.
So this means that brokerages, if they're not splitting house, they stand a chance at actually losing their agents to other companies that are.
Which is why they're doing that split house, like West USA, like, once again, there's another one who somebody just told me the other day, can't remember right off the top of my head, but like I said, there was about 5 different brokerages that told me that they're doing a split house. They have to name it a little bit different, which, by the way, I think that's also super confusing to the public.
Well, maybe West USA can be called West T USA.
Which that's kind of what they're doing, is they're making it just ever so, different, ever so slightly. And
or we could use your example, you always talk about brokerage names sounding very similar. You've got HomeSmart right now. You could create HomeSmart, like you talked about over several years now.
There we go.
Do you think there's any other people that fit in those categories of people that are going to be transferring over?
So here's what it comes down to, right? You talked about the part-timers. You're talking about the housewives who are doing 1 to 2 or no deals a year. No reason for them to pay a bunch of money. They just want access to MLS. You know what? Here's the difference. It's about $275 plus or minus between going the non-realtor route or going the realtor route. For that amount of money, it's really going to be up to you. You have to decide, like, at this point in my life, at this point in my career, do I really want to learn a bunch of new forms? Do I really want to learn a new platform? We have transaction desks as an AR member benefit. If you go to Phoenix Realtors, they call it Jointly. That's the new program that they're using. It's not going to be AuthentiSign anymore. Of course, Jointly has their own built-in e-sign product. So I think there's a lot of choices you have to make, and you have to say, is it worth it for $300 sub to...
Especially if you're only going to be in your real estate career for another like 5 years, maybe 10 years at the most, is probably not worth it. But if you're looking at the long term, how much money you're going to save, $200 some odd bucks a year, you have to make that decision for yourself. But again, Jeff, that question keeps on coming up. How do I make that decision for myself? I'd love to know, what was your logic? Why did you decide, aside from needing access to transaction desk and stuff for teaching, right? Why did you decide to renew with the NAR this year?
Yeah, it's a great question. I really, in my mind, I had to first think about the pros and cons, as you just asked. The public, very unfortunately nowadays, does not know the difference between a realtor and a non-realtor member, right? They just go, oh, you're all realtors, right? And obviously,
or real turds, depending on their opinions.
Yeah, and so that's really what it comes down to, is that which one do we do and why do we do it? Because the public doesn't know any difference. All those acronyms behind your name, the ABR, the ePro, the CRS, right? Hundreds of different designations and, that you might have. Those would all go away if you decide to become a non-realtor member. Is it worth it? Something to think about. The Code of Ethics. Well, a lot of people say, well, the Code of Ethics is very similar here in Arizona to R4281101, and I have to take that no matter what. So, am I really getting a lot of benefit by taking the Code of Ethics and saying that we abide by a higher set of standards? That's also kind of up in the air. You need to think about RPR, Realtors Property Resource. That is Definitely realtor only. So I want to let you know, just because you're part of ARMLS does not mean that you get access to RPR. You do have to be a realtor member there. And just to remind you what RPR is, it is basically Zillow on steroids. Should I call it that?
I'm not sure I would say Zillow on steroids. I think Monsoon or CurbView on steroids is a little bit more appropriate.
There we go. Although the only thing is that Monsoon and CurbView is only Arizona, right?
Right.
So we're talking about every property, every commercial and residential property in the United States
Yes.
on steroids, right?
Now, bear in mind, though, when you're getting access, like say you have access to an Arizona license and you're a member of ARMLS, you will get access to the rest of the properties in the state of Arizona, but the information you get on those properties will be limited, just like the properties in other states. So like I can look up a property in California, like I did with a Costco one time, just for curiosity's sake, and I can get basic data on that, but not like I can get with properties here in Arizona.
Right. So what was the deciding factor for me? I am going to stay an NAR member. For me, I had to get past the, am I going to stay mad at you forever, NAR? And you have to kind of get past that. At this point, I believe that we have a very well-organized, well-greased machine here in Arizona called Arizona Realtors. I think they did a wonderful job to bring us together. Is it going to be basically fractionized, for a lack of better words, meaning because we're going to get different? I definitely think it's going to go that way. I don't know what's going to happen in the future. I don't know where real estate's going to be in the future. Everything has changed. Everything literally has changed. Last year, we're in January of 2025, so of course commissions through MLS, that has gone away. Yeah, it's been really difficult to make that decision in terms of the pros and cons for me. I am going to be a Realtor member.
Yeah, and for similar reasons, I also agreed to stay a Realtor member this year. A lot of it had to do with the RPR. It's a really valuable piece of software that I use on a pretty frequent basis. And to be fair, the RPR is only being used by about, what, 47, 48% of realtors?
Very unfortunately.
If even that. The RPR was worthwhile, but then also contemplating those forms that we get from the Arizona Association of Realtors. Those forms are so good that other states, other realtor associations come to Arizona looking to get copies of our forms or copy verbiage off of our stuff and take it to their states. So for me, having good, reliable forms that I already know is something that's worthwhile. Now, to the point of what we said earlier, am I still going to have to learn the Phoenix Realtor forms? Yes. Should you also learn them, even if you are staying an AR member? Yes. Because you don't want to be sitting at the table with your seller looking at a residential purchase contract from Phoenix Realtors and not have any idea what it says and telling them to consult a real estate lawyer instead. And it's not really super hard to study up on them. I mean, would you say, based off of the glimpses that you've gotten of them so far, are they massively different from the Arizona Association?
Come on, they're all going to be basically the same, right? It's going to have the purchase price, the closing date, some basics in there. It's pretty similar.
Yes. Okay. So to that point, guys, again, you have to contemplate to yourself, is it worth leaving this behind? And that's not a decision that we can make for you. You have to make it for yourself. Now, with that being said, though, I do want to toss one more log in the fire real quick.
Let's hear it.
Jeff, you know this because you're a member of the ARMLS board for a good little while. ARMLS, one of the things that they say is you do not have to be a realtor to use ARMLS, right?
Correct.
So with that being the case, you know, you see inspectors on there, sometimes lenders and title reps have access to ARMLS. Why is it that if I can just get access to ARMLS without even touching a realtor association, why is it that Phoenix Realtors is even putting forward this MLS Choice thing at all? Are they trying to retain a little bit of income from realtors and not letting them know that they can just go join ARMLS? Or what do you think is going on there?
Yeah. So one of the things about ARMLS is that it is a realtor-owned multiple listing services. So it is owned, the shareholders are going to be WeServe, we got Scottsdale, and we got Phoenix. So bottom line is that if you want to join, you do have to join one of the associations at that lowered cost to go ahead and join ARMLS. So you can't just go to ARMLS directly and get access. You do have to join one of the 3 local associations to then join ARMLS. But once again, since 1994, you did not have to join NAR, AR to join ARMLS.
Gotcha. So are you saying like some of those home inspectors, title companies, and people you see in there, are they paying fees to one of the local associations for that?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I also want to remind you that, by the way, ARMLS was the only MLS and association, but I'll call it the MLS portion of it, that did not make you join NAR. So in other words, the other 14 associations and 11 MLSs in the state of Arizona, actually we're going to go down one actually because some other things are going on. SVVAR, their MLS has actually joined recently, ARMLS, but we have 14, I believe we're at 9 now then, MLSs, and they have always made you join NAR, AR to belong to their MLS, which, by the way, there's multiple lawsuits in different states over that one. We got Florida, we got Michigan, we got Pennsylvania, and I'm sure the lawsuits are going to continue to go on.
I just saw a new one that got filed like 2 days ago as of recording this. So as we wrap up this first episode here, Jeff, do you have anything else that you want to add in? Any final thoughts or opinions in the last minute or so of this?
How much more confusing can you possibly make our industry? That's I think, the first thing. You are going to have a choice, and it is a little bit confusing. I'm okay either way, but I do want to let you know, you really have to wonder if it's worth it, once again, for $270 to basically change everything you've ever known. Because of being upset at our national association. That's kind of the way I look at it.
That's a great way to wrap it up. So guys, with that, I would like to say thank you for joining us today for the Tech 4 podcast, our very first episode ever. Be sure to stay tuned for a lot more episodes coming up later on down the road. We'll see you guys in the next one.
See you later.